Tennessee kicked off the month of official visitors with several on campus this past weekend. Who did Tennessee move the meter with the most? It's in the trenches. I'll tell you more here on a Monday, Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it, your Monday morning Locked On Vols. I'm Eric Kane, coming from you not live, but at the time of this recording, I'm live here from a business center little pocket in a hotel down in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Of course, I'm down here covering the Super Regionals, and we won't talk any baseball here on a Monday show because, of course, Tennessee and Arkansas play Game 2 of the Super Regionals Sunday afternoon, and I'm just not going to have time to record after that. So apologies there, but of course, win or lose, if this thing goes on to Monday at some point in time, we will obviously recap and discuss everything Tennessee baseball related. If Tennessee's going on to Omaha or if Tennessee's season will be coming to a close. So baseball talk coming up later in the week. But here on today's docket, going to recap a couple of the official visitors at the time of this recording. Reports coming in of a couple of guys who were on campus this past weekend. We'll kind of go through how Tennessee fared with those guys. In segment 2, we're going to look at the give kind of a 2025 class update and go look at the freshmen who signed with Tennessee who are going to be true freshmen this year. Who is set to contribute? Who is set to have a special teams role? All that and more. And then segment number 3, I do want to react. It was from the Dynasty podcast. AJ McCarron recalling a recruiting story that involved Nick Saban, Jeremy Pruitt, and Lane Kiffin. Back whenever Tennessee was trying to put the full court press on McCarron. So I want to kind of go over that and react to that hilarious story in segment number 3. Don't forget, Twitter Tuesday is coming up tomorrow. I know I'm on the road, but I'm going to try to do what I can to answer some questions. It might be Wednesday, but go ahead and send in those questions at @_Kane or at Locked On Vols. Didn't really do one last week, so hopefully we can get some questions here and do it this week, whatever you guys have to offer. So appreciate you guys as always here on Locked On Vols. Couldn't do the show without you every dayers. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, I'm Eric Kane, your host. And with that being said, let's dive down into it. I think Tennessee did a good job with offensive lineman Edward Baker this weekend. Baker left town saying that it was his best official visit yet. Of course, he's the St. Francis Academy offensive lineman. He's been a longtime target for the University of Tennessee. He's been here a couple different times, and he was on campus this past weekend for his official visit. He said to VolQuest leaving campus, quote, "I was able to get a real inside look at everything from the players. I enjoyed everything. It was definitely the best official visit so far. I loved it. I've enjoyed seeing how much Coach Heupel is involved. He is spending time with everybody, showing everybody love. He was not singling anybody out. He was transparent and would tell you what is real." Again, that is Baker on his official visit to Tennessee. He goes on to say, "It was great spending time with Glenn Ellerby on his official visit. I loved it. I've seen him several times now. He came to my house during the contact period to talk to me. First time he came to my house, then back again soon after that. So this has been great." Tennessee, big time on the 3-star offensive lineman, Edward Baker, again from St. Francis Academy, 6'4", about 315, 320 pounds. We talked about him being on campus, I want to say, for the 865 Live event. So, again, he's a guy that Tennessee's been after for a little bit. You look at the recruiting rankings, again, 3-star, not even a nationally ranked in terms of On3, 247, or any of those guys. The industry rankings has him as 1,224 or whatever in the country. But, again, I think this is a late rising prospect, and whenever he commits to Tennessee or whomever, his recruiting ranking is going to take a big jump. That's just kind of how this thing works. So I think Tennessee did a good job with Edward Baker, an interior offensive lineman, a guy that they coveted for a long time and wanting to get him into this class. And again, Edward Baker, St. Francis Academy in Maryland. All right, another guy that I want to talk about here from this past weekend is a defensive back in Keyshawn Alazer. North Carolina, not defensive back, an edge prospect from the state of North Carolina. You look at his recruiting rankings, 6'6", 195 pounds, so a lot of room to grow into his stature, into his figure. He's a 3-star rated prospect per On3, 247, and some of the other ones. He's a top 500 national recruit, 438th per the On3 industry rankings, 46th at the edge position. But again, you look at kind of where he is right now, his stature, his frame, he's got a lot of room to grow. And I think that's what's super intriguing about this prospect from Southeast Raleigh, North Carolina. But he was on campus this past weekend, was Keyshawn, and he's told VolQuest, quote, "I enjoyed getting around the players, having a chance to hang out with them and continue to build a relationship with the coaching staff. I really like how they go about their things. They keep everything real, and they show me that I am a priority." Spent a whole lot of time with Tim Banks, Willie Martinez, or really more Tim Banks and Coach Chop, because Coach Chop would be his position coach. And on Tim Banks, he said, quote, "He has been recruiting me hard even before offering me and before he got the promotion to outside linebackers coach. So me and him have developed a really, really good relationship over the years." Again, another one of those that isn't going to really jump out at you in terms of the prospect sheet, the star rankings and everything, but you never want to be a stargazer, right? If a staff like Tennessee or Georgia or LSU or Alabama or whoever is recruiting a player like this, I think that says a whole lot more than what the star ranking says. It's the offer sheet, the committable offer sheet, and certainly Keyshawn here has got a committable offer to the University of Tennessee. Last quote I want to read out here, and you can check out the full quotes and the full stories of the interviews over at volquest.com. Ask out the door, "Hey, do you think Tennessee could be an actual possibility?" And he said, quote, "Definitely a realistic option, and that I would be considering when I commit next month." Again, he's set to commit next month. I'm looking forward a program that will develop me on and off the field, one that I feel I have good relationships with, and it's built on trust, and that has an education piece. And he thinks Tennessee certainly has all of those things. So that was an update from Keyshawn Elizer here on the University of Tennessee on his official visit. And the final one that I want to highlight here before we shift gears more towards last year's class, and remember, there's going to be more official visitors coming in through the month. This was the first of 4 weekends, probably the smallest. I think this upcoming weekend and the one after are set to be the biggest weekends for Tennessee. But Tennessee still had, I want to say, 8 that were in this past weekend. And the last one I want to highlight here is KJ McClain, and he is a defensive back who was in on an official visit for the University of Tennessee. KJ McClain, he is 5'11", 160 pounds, and he is from St. Joseph Regional High School in West Orange, New Jersey. New Jersey defensive back. Again, 160, about 5'11", almost 6 foot. Another one of those 3-star rated prospects. Top 600 prospect in the class, coming in right around that 600 number. And he was back on campus trying to build some relationships with Tim Banks, Willie Martinez, Josh Heupel. He said, "I liked all the activities. I also liked how much Josh Heupel was around. He's for the players. I really like that." I mean, that's kind of a common theme. And we've noticed that over the years. Josh Heupel very involved in these recruiting weekends. He doesn't just sit up in his office and bring them up there and talk to them at the very end. He does do that, but he's out there playing putt-putt, shooting basketball, whatever those bowling, whatever is on the docket for these official visitors. Josh Heupel's kind of right in the middle of it. And I think that, the prospects really enjoy that. And we've already, read 2 quotes this morning about how they did enjoy that. For McClain, it's kind of a Tennessee, Texas A&M, Penn State battle right now in the back half of the spring. He said, quote, "I'm big on relationships, on seeing the head coach and being around and carrying the guys is something I really value. I'm a family guy. Relationships are key. Having a good relationship with your coach is great. Knowing he's a good guy really gives you a boost." And again, that kind of just goes on with more about Josh Heupel kind of being for the players. So again, a couple of updates, not a whole lot here at the time of this recording. There's going to be more. Joel Wyatt, the top player from the state of Tennessee. Tennessee loves him on the edge. I know a lot of programs say, hey, you can play defensive back, you can play safety, play wide receiver. Tennessee loves him at the edge. Again, the top-ranked player from the state, he was in town this weekend. And, of course, we'll give a recruiting update at some point on him and kind of how all that went. Overall, when you look at who all was in campus this weekend, and we'll work to get more updates on some of the other ones just at the time of this recording before the baseball game. This is kind of all I have to go on with right now. But these were the guys who were on campus this weekend. KJ McClain, Keyshawn Elizer, who we just mentioned, Edward Baker, Darius Gray, another big-time prospect Tennessee's on, Kedrick Golston, Joel Wyatt, who we've mentioned, Luke Thompson. So a group of, looks like 7 who are on campus for official visits this weekend, and Tennessee is kicking off the month of June. Very, very big month of June, obviously, with official visitors. Big-time month or big-time weekend coming up next weekend and the one after as well. Hey, when we come back, let's take a look at the class of 2025 and kind of go over where they are in their progression, who's going to stand out, who's going to play roles for Tennessee outside of just David Sanders. All that and more is coming up next as we continue on here on this Monday, Locked On Vols. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances and major momentum shifts that you just can't miss moments, right? Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on all the action. FanDuel makes it easy to do just that. Before tip-off and live, player props, performance trends, same-game parlays, fans have even more ways than ever to play smart and win big. You guys know I'm big on the college football bets, and right now there's futures out there, there's win totals, conference championship odds, college football playoff odds, all that and more. You can get in on that early right now at FanDuel Sportsbook, plus Major League Baseball. There's games going on every single day, run lines. They got World Series odds that are updated all the time, all that and more, plus NBA playoffs and Stanley Cup playoffs over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Now's the best time to do it, to sign up if you're new to us, right? Head on over to FanDuel.com or check it out on the safe, secure, easy-to-use app. Place your first $5 bet. If that wins, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets. Not bad, right? Place your first $5 bet. If that wins, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel. It's an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, guys, welcome back into your Monday show. I'm Eric Kane here from Fayetteville, Arkansas. I'm down here covering the Tennessee Volunteers in the Super Regional. We'll talk more baseball once the series concludes because due to my day job, I'm not going to be able to record after the games because I'm got a lot going on, and I certainly don't want to talk and be out of date by the time this airs. So as we know, Tennessee dropped game one, and at the time of this recording, that's all I know right now. But certainly we'll recap, we'll discuss everything Tennessee baseball, what's next in the transfer portal as well, plus taking some of your mailbag questions that's coming up on tomorrow's show. All right, so let's look back at the class of 2025. Okay, this is the class that just signed, okay? And this is a class that a lot of these guys, were here for spring and went through spring practice and kind of got their feet wet a little bit. And they're going to be poised to take a step in fall camp, hopefully, and see if they can kind of carve out a role for Tennessee. Maybe that role is a backup. Maybe that role is a starter like David Sanders. Maybe that role is to be a special teams guy. But whatever that role is, they need to be taking a step and continuing to progress this summer and in fall camp coming up in a couple weeks. We'll start the conversation off with David Sanders Jr. Obviously, Tennessee has a massive investment in the 5-star plus offensive tackle. He came in spring, kind of sat back, watched, participated, don't get me wrong, but it's not like he was in the first-team offense every single day, okay? He started off, I want to say, third string, then moved up to second string a little bit, was learning from Lance Hurd, learning from Larry Johnson, but the plan was him and Larry Johnson kind of battling that out for the right tackle spot and probably both playing a little bit, and then eventually you would hope David Sanders kind of would take that over. But Larry Johnson, seeing the writing on the wall, left, and he's now at Colorado competing to be the starting right tackle for the Buffs. So now it's David Sanders. David Sanders is going to have to grow up. He's got no choice. And I think he had a really good spring. Good footwork, athleticism was on point. I think his ability to learn and be a sponge, again, you heard great things about David Sanders in spring ball. But he's going to be going through the ringer a little bit as a true freshman starter at right tackle. But we know what David Sanders' role is going to be. Who else? Go to Isaiah Campbell. He was Tennessee's second highest rated signee, a 5-star, and because of the numbers on the defensive line, Isaiah Campbell along with Ethan Utley left spring practice. They were very much in the rotation at defensive tackle. Tennessee went out and got a transfer defensive tackle from a lower level, but Isaiah Campbell continuing to grow into his frame, about 6'4". I think he's gotten up to around 285, 290 pounds. Displays a lot of athleticism, and Isaiah Campbell is going to be a guy that plays for Tennessee this year for sure. So far, your two highest rated signees, we know what their roles are going to be for Tennessee this year. What about Deshaun Brame? Third highest rated signee, 4-star tight end. Well, we know Miles Kitzelman's going to be your starter, and of course he's coming back from injury, but he's going to be your starter. Ethan Davis is going to be there, and then who's going to be the number 3? Is it Jack Van Dorselaer, who caught 3 touchdowns in the spring game? Is it going to be Cole Harrison, who the staff really, really likes? Or is it going to be Deshaun Brame, who's probably got the higher ceiling of any of those guys, but might not be ready to play day one? Kind of like Joshua Josephs as a true freshman. He played, whereas James Pierce wasn't ready, but then James Pierce came on and took everything over that next year. So maybe that's a situation here. Plus, Deshaun Brain missed some time in spring ball, but certainly future's bright for him. I just don't know if it's going to be a lot of playing time as a true freshman. Marion Dodd is a guy that missed pretty much all of spring. I think he's a guy that's going to kind of grow and be more of a strong side defensive end. Highly rated 4-star. The staff likes him, but ultimately he didn't participate much in spring, so he's kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit. Travis Smith, 4-star rated wide receiver, 6'3", 200 pounds. Tennessee had to fight and hold on to keep him and to get him signed, but we know his role too. He's got to play. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. Travis Smith has got to play football for Tennessee because he is one of 7 scholarship wide receivers in the room. That is wild to think about. He is literally one of 7 scholarship wide receivers in the room. So Travis Smith's going to play. I think that he grew and matured a little bit as spring went along. I think he came in with a lot of confidence. Nothing wrong with that. But then you slowly kind of like realize, oh man, this is legit. This ain't high school football no more. I'm not saying he expected that to be, but I think that he kind of was humbled some, but I think he responded well, and I think he finished spring really, really hot. And that's a good thing because Tennessee's going to need him. Christian Gass, 4-star rated linebacker, can play on the inside right now. He's projected to be at that Leo position. He missed all of spring ball too, so we'll be intrigued to see kind of how he responds in fall camp. George MacIntyre, we know he's right in the middle, right in the heart of a quarterback battle. I do think Joey Aguilar is at 1, Jake Merklinger is at 2, and then G-Max at 3. Maybe that's unfair to Jake Merklinger, but I do think it's a Aguilar-Merklinger battle with MacIntyre kind of behind. And that's no disrespect to George MacIntyre. He looked good in the spring game, but he is a true freshman, okay? I think his ceiling is incredibly high, because he went through 4 different offensive coordinators and 4 different offenses. He kind of had the Jerry Garantano approach at the high school level, did George MacIntyre. He's got a whole lot of ability. He's got a frame to where he can put on a lot of weight and look pretty good. But I think right now it's too early for him, and that's okay. But that's, he is very much in a quarterback competition, but I don't think he's going to win it. And again, that's no slight to him. Nick Moore, 4-star rated offensive lineman from the best place on earth, Dumpling Valley. Yeah, Jefferson County Patriots, go Pats. I think he's going to be a reserve to redshirt type guy. I think there needs to be some development there, but he is practicing at center, and I think the staff really, really likes him. Jaden Harmon's a linebacker that I really, really like, but missed out on spring, unfortunately. Didn't have a chance to go through those drills and then really kind of take a step, but when healthy, I think Jaden Harmon is expected to be a part of the rotation at linebacker. Ethan Utley, in the same vein as I spoke on not Elijah Herring, of its teammates, Isaiah Campbell. And he's going to play. He's in that rotation. I think Ethan Utley has really impressed with his athleticism, his ability to put on some good weight and, good, strong feet, and being able to take on Tennessee's offensive linemen really as an underclassman where a lot of those guys kind of got overwhelmed in spring practice. I think Ethan Utley and Isaiah Campbell really showed out, and that's a great thing. So, again, the defensive tackle depth chart, Bryson Easton, Jackson Moy, you got David Hobbs there. I think it's Isaiah Campbell, Ethan Utley. Okay, and then we'll see what happens from there if Nathan Robinson's healthy or whatever. But Ethan Utley is going to play. We know that in terms of his role. Much like Travis Smith, where Darius Jackson is going to play. He is one of 7 scholarship wide receivers, and he had a very, very good spring. Very impressed with Darius Jackson. Thought he was the under-the-radar guy in this class, specifically at his wide receiver position. Kind of like Ricky Gibson was to Jordan Matthews coming in a couple years ago in that class at the quarterback position. I'm excited to see what Darius Jackson can do on the football field. Jaden Lofton's next. Of course, he's coming off injury, so we'll have to wait and see what's going on with him. I think he's going to be a part of a Leo group. Jack Van Dorselaer, I think he's more ready now to play, and potentially he could begin the season as the 3rd tight end or the 2nd tight end, depending on where Miles Kitzelman is, but we think Miles Kitzelman's going to be ready to go. Jack Van Dorselaer, physicality-wise, more along than Deshaun Brame, and that's to be expected because he used to play on the defensive line, and plus he had a really, really good spring game. Trey Poteet is a guy that I think did some good things in the defensive back room over spring ball, and we'll see if he can continue to grow. Jaden Perlotti, a linebacker, along with Jaden Harmon. he's still got a little ways to go, but a guy that Tennessee didn't think was going to be in this class and ultimately ended up in this class. DeJuan Morris. I think everybody's really pleased with what DeJuan Morris brings to the running back room. I think that he flashed in spring. I do think he's number 4 in the rotation right now, and so I think that opportunities will be limited, but I think everybody likes where DeJuan Morris is. Anthony Agmaro, a guy that I think really impressed with his ability to go up there and kind of get dirty, stick his nose in some things. It's what you want in an interior offensive lineman, but I do think that he's probably a redshirt candidate this year, as is Brandon Ains. Actually, Ains could probably be a special teams guy playing linebacker. One of the few, really, he was the only freshman that was healthy at the linebacker position and actually went through spring drills from Page, where he played in, I think, 4 state championships. As a high school player, I think that he's probably a special teams guy. Timothy Merritt has got to come along. He's really got to add some depth at the defensive back position in the secondary for Tennessee. Justin Baker, I think, is a redshirt guy as a true freshman at running back. Dylan Lewis, Sidney Walton, Tyler Redmond, all those guys need to continue to come along, because I think the strength for Tennessee this year is the defensive backfield. But certainly you need some help at safety, you need some help at star, and you need some depth at corner. And I think that's why this group of 5 defensive backs, though nobody's really kind of taken the lead in terms of standing out just yet, or at least not in spring, I think they're all counting on those guys to add some serious depth. Charles House, I think he's a redshirt guy, defensive tackle. He was not on campus this spring. Neither was Joakim Dotson, but both those guys are here on campus now. Joakim Dotson, again, wide receiver, one of 7 scholarship wide receivers, but he is going to have to play catch-up in a hurry. But just because of numbers, I think Joakim Dotson is a guy that could be in that rotation for sure, especially if there's an injury. So wanted to have that exercise, go through the signing class of 2025 and kind of see what roles are expected from these guys right now, post-spring, and then heading on into fall camp. And as you notice, a lot of those guys are going to be counted on this year, maybe more in this class than in the past couple classes. And that's exciting. That's exciting for sure for those of you guys that love recruiting. Speaking of recruiting, I'm going to react here the last couple minutes of the show. A hilarious story that AJ McCarron recited on the Dynasty podcast about when he was being recruited by Alabama and Tennessee. It has to do with a couple of former Tennessee head coaches. You don't want to go anywhere. If you haven't heard this story, it's funny. Stay tuned. All right, guys, we got a final segment left here this Monday, Locked On Vols, and this one's going to be short. I teased it, kind of coming into this segment, but I do want to touch base on a story that former Alabama quarterback, 3-time national championship winner, I believe twice as a starting quarterback, told on the Dynasty podcast, a podcast about Alabama football. None of us listen to that show, obviously, but he told a hilarious story about his recruitment, and he was a commit to Alabama, about to sign with Alabama. It was kind of coming down to the home stretch, and Nick Saban essentially told Jeremy Pruitt, hey, Tennessee wants him. Tennessee's trying to steal him. I want you to go down to his house and watch and make sure nothing's going on. So McCarron recalls on the podcast, quote, Pruitt comes down. He's sitting in front of the house. He's been there for maybe 2 days. One morning, I'm knocked out. I think Dad's at the fire station. I'm sleeping, and all of a sudden, I get a bang on my bedroom window. Bam, 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 bam. I wake up and like, who the hell is banging on my window? I open the blinds, and it's Lane and Lance Thompson. Lance Thompson, former assistant to Lane at Tennessee, leaning on my window, waving back at me. I look behind them, and it's the whole offensive coaching staff for Tennessee. All you hear is Lance saying, let me in, let us in. I'm like, all right. So I go and let them in, end quote. Ended up staying for, about 30, 45 minutes, Tennessee giving their recruiting pitch and all that, trying to work to steal AJ McCarron. And then they leave, and he goes on the story, and he's quoting his conversation with Nick Saban, who calls him. He said, what are you doing, boy? He said, nothing. I'm just getting my day going. I just had a full-on interview and meeting with the whole Tennessee staff. The whole staff was down here in my living room for about 30 to 45 minutes. Saban obviously responds negatively. He's upset. So he says, quote, I told Pruitt's ass to get down there and watch your house. Let me call him. And they're all laughing on the podcast, obviously. So you can imagine Nick Saban calling his, whatever Pruitt was at the time, linebackers coach, defensive coordinator, I don't know, but his understudy, essentially, and just laying into him like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Turns out Pruitt was parked in front of the wrong house. So he goes up there to investigate. He goes up there and knocks on the door and this little lady apparently answers the door, says, hello, ma'am, is AJ McCarron here? And she says, AJ McCarron doesn't live here. He lives 6 houses down. So Jeremy Pruitt had the wrong house. But I mean, goodness gracious, like, do you have an address? Go find the house. It shouldn't be that hard. But the fact that this league and college football in general is just so insane. It just means more, literally. I mean, these stories about recruiting, stalking, hanging out in front of a recruit's house, a little creepy, not going to lie, hanging out in front of a recruit's house. I mean, back in the old days before social media and all that in the early signing period, I mean, it really kind of was like you just got to hold off until you sign in early February for National Signing Day. Now things are different and everything. So, posting up outside of a recruit's house, waiting, stalking, making sure nobody's coming in there to talk to him, trying to swing him away. And you get a phone call from your boss like, hey, what are you doing, you idiot? I gave you one job and you didn't do it. And he says, no, nobody's been here. Wrong house. The wrong house. I mean, just incredible. And what was interesting, too, that Trent Richardson, who is the co-host of the Dynasty podcast, said because of that incident with AJ McCarron, Nick Saban made Jeremy Pruitt do that for Trent Richardson and made sure that he had the right house. So I thought that was so funny. Again, this league that values football over everything. Stories like that. Could you imagine being a high school senior, okay? And you're just sitting there getting some sleep in. I don't know what day of the morning it was. If he was, sleeping in, I guess it was, a Saturday morning. He wasn't in school. And you're just sitting there and you hear bang, bang, bang on your window. It's like, what the heck's going on? And you open the blinds and you see Lane Kiffin and his assistant, Lance Thompson. And then you look behind him and see the whole offensive coaching staff. I mean, how crazy, how weird, but how crazy is that? That is just wild to me. There's some great recruiting stories out there. I mean, Jim Harbaugh's got some good ones. I mean, everybody I feel like has got some crazy recruiting stories at one point or another. But that one is probably one of the funniest ones I've heard in quite some time. And it obviously has a Tennessee tie into it because Lane Kiffin was the head coach at Tennessee. And Jeremy Pruitt, who was on Alabama staff, would ultimately go on to be the head coach at Tennessee years later. Neither one of those guys Lane's tenure at Tennessee was fine. It was a winning record, excitement, recruiting was fun. But I think we can all agree at that point in time, if Lane Kiffin would have stayed at the University of Tennessee, the NCAA was going to be coming knocking for sure about the rules that him and his staff have bent and broke and taken advantage of and all that and more. So that would have been super, super interesting. But nobody can deny that Lane Kiffin didn't come and bring a bolt of energy and excitement and some drama to his 1 year here on the Hill as head coach of the University of Tennessee. So anyway, that is going to do it here for this Monday show. Official visits took place this past weekend. We'll continue to get some more updates from the visit. Some of those guys kind of leaving stagger throughout Sunday afternoon. Again, I'm recording this before Sunday's baseball game. I got to go over there and cover the baseball game. So we'll continue to talk about some of the big takeaways, specifically from Wyatt, who was on campus this weekend, number 1 overall prospect in the state of Tennessee, top 30 prospect in all the country. What did he say? What did he think about the official visit? He's been here so many times. A lot of these times, when you get to official visit weekend, you're just checking off boxes at this point. But still, we'll discuss that. Send in your questions, your comments, your concerns at _Caner at Locked On Vols. We'll answer those hopefully on tomorrow's show. Appreciate you guys for being here, making Locked On Vols your first listen each and every single day. We'll do it again tomorrow. This is Locked On Vols.